while. The first question, though, I would like to ask is to you, the audience out there. So we'd be really grateful if you could just pop in the chat box. Just let us know where you are in the world. Let us know what job role you do too and what company you work for. So if you could just let us know where you are in the world, what job role you do, and what company you work for, if indeed you do work for a company. If you don't and you're a student or something like that, just put what you're studying and what institution you're working at. That will allow our speakers to get an idea of who they are talking to, and it'll also I'll also find it interesting as well. I just want to thank our partners today. So this webinar has been brought to you by a unique partnership between the Fashion Network, the Ecommerce Club, and ReBOUND Returns, who are our commercial partner. Now, ReBOUND Returns is one of the fastest growing e-commerce returns platforms. They have over, I think, 100,000 returns you process. Is that right, Laura? And for over 500 clients. So here you go. Here's some of their clients here. So if anybody would like to learn more about ReBOUNDs or get in touch, we will be leaving the contact details at the end of this webinar. Just a few things, sort of like house things to note the audience about. So if you have any questions or any comments, then as you just have, please pop them in the chat box. So any questions or comments. It would be really useful for us as well that when you do ask a question, if you could set it so that everybody could see, because we find it's much more of a more rounded learning experience if others in the room can see. Obviously, if your question's a little bit sensitive and you just want the panelists to see it, then obviously you can set it for that. But if you don't mind others seeing your question, it'd be great if you could let them see it. Just shares the knowledge a little bit. Also, if your question is kind of convoluted or quite long, or you're a little bit like myself, don't like typing reams of text, you can actually click on the raise your hand feature, and that will allow us to turn your audio on and you'll be able to talk to us directly. So any long questions, pop your hand up. If there's any short questions or comments, put it in the chat box. We want to make this as interactive as possible, so please, everybody out there listening, do get involved. Before I hand over to Laura from ReBOUND, I'm just going to give you a quick rundown of how the session will run. So as I said, Laura G from ReBOUND Returns will be giving us a very short presentation, 10 to 15 minutes presentation called a Returns Policy is for Life, not just for Christmas. Laura will be talking you through how to offer your customers an efficient experience and why returns matter all year round and not just at peak time. And then at 2:20, we'll have our panel discussion, unwrapping greener returns. Is it a breeze or an uphill battle? And we've got a fantastic lineup of speakers today. I am not Davina Lyons. Unfortunately, Davina was advertised to chair this discussion, but she's got some technical issues at home, so I shall be filling in for her. But we've got some great speakers here. We've got Emily Mcmorran, who's Customer Experience Senior Executive at Opoly. We have Emily Cotterill, Head of Sustainability at ReBOUND Returns. Simon Payne, co-founder of SoleResponsibility. Caroline Ellis, Commercial Director at Advanced Supply Chain, and Debbie Luffman, Product Developer at Finisterre / Think Circular. So fantastic panel. We should be able to get you guys out there listening, some great insights. And then before I hand over, I just want to remind everybody at 3 o'clock when the session finishes, we have a post-event networking, a virtual networking session, which all of you guys out there will be welcome to join us. You'll get a chance to meet the panelists. You'll get a chance to meet the guys from my team at the Fashion Network, Ecommerce Club, and also ReBOUND guys, and as well as fellow delegates. So if you want to join us there, we'll be having like a 20 minutes to 30 minutes post-event presentation. Anyway, without further ado, I'd like to hand over the screen to Laura G, who's going to give you her short presentation. Laura, all over to you.
Thanks very much, Dale. Good afternoon, everybody. Great to have so many of you here with us. My name is Laura G, and I'm the Marketing Manager at ReBOUND Returns. That's my official title, but unofficially, I'm a massive returns nerd, ReBOUND's resident returns geek. So any returns related presentations and discussions, I'm always the person raising my hand up and chucking my hat in the ring to be involved. So today I'll be talking you through why a returns policy is for life, not just for Christmas. So looking at why that post-purchase experience matters all year round, not just at peak. So to give you a bit of a whistle-stop tour of ReBOUND then, my slides will change, there we go. If you're not familiar with who we are, so ReBOUND is your return solution in a box. So through a combination of our returns technology and reverse logistics, we help retailers achieve smarter and more sustainable returns whilst enhancing the customer experience. So ReBOUND in numbers, we've been established for 7 years now and are handling 40 million return transactions per year. And we have over 270 return carrier services on the ReBOUND platform. And we've got over 500 brands now using ReBOUND as well. So the likes of ASOS, Gymshark, Opoly, Mango, Boden, and many, many other retail names that I'm sure you've heard of. So before we dive into it then, it's important to look at the context of what is driving returns volume. It's no secret that online sales went absolutely nuts during the pandemic. As stores closed, everybody switched to online to get everything from their garden furniture, new outfits, toilet roll in some cases when they couldn't get any in the supermarkets. So the byproduct of that was that 39% of retailers have seen an increase in returns since the outbreak of the pandemic. But what might surprise you is that 60% of shoppers will continue to shop online as much as they do now after the pandemic has passed. So your dad and your grandma who previously hated shopping online, I know my dad did, have had to get used to shopping online now and have realised the benefits and the ease that that can provide and are going to carry on shopping online as we move forward. So that's the pandemic, but now we've got peak coming up and we all know how crazy peak can get, both from an outbound and a returns perspective. Looking at last year, online spending at Christmas increased by 56% more than in the same period in 2019. And the online share of retail sales rose to 33% compared to only 21% in Christmas 2019. So again, just builds up that picture of just how crazy online sales went last year during the pandemic. And as a result of that, ReBOUND saw a 37% increase in returns in December 2020 compared to December 2019. So that's the December Christmas picture, but what about Black Friday? So in Black Friday 2019, so before COVID was ever an inkling of a thing, in Black Friday, we saw kind of a really staggered level of returns accumulating in a giant returns peak on the 9th of December, where returns volume spiked by 240%. So retailers saw kind of a really general trickle of returns, all of it accumulating on that one massive day. But in 2020, that was quite a different picture. So as you can see from the charts that I've got here, rather than that massive spike, we actually had a more sustained curve that continued throughout December. And then that went on to become a high spike on the 29th of December. So a whole 20 days later, moving much later on in the festive period. So rather than having that spike between Black Friday and Christmas, it actually didn't occur until after Christmas. So why do we think this is? So sales aren't just isolated to a single day anymore, and subsequently returns aren't either. When Black Friday first crossed the Atlantic from the US many years ago now, Black Friday was that big one day where everybody geared up for, all of the retailers saved up their big discounts and were ready to get rid of all of their stock on Black Friday. But that picture's changed now as people begin their discounting earlier and earlier. Last year, we saw retailers starting their discounting as early as the end of October. So that sustained returns curve is in line with the sustained sales that have been going on throughout the entire month. And it's also reflective of the extended returns policies that we saw throughout the last year. So whereas extended returns policies are normally reserved for Christmas, during COVID, lots of retailers were actually already extending their policies to equate for the fact that customers couldn't get down to the post office to drop their return off. So they were just maintaining those return policies throughout the Christmas period as well. So what do we think is going to happen this year? Whilst during pre-COVID times, we'd expect to see that large return spike between Black Friday and Christmas, and then another one between Christmas and New Year, we're expecting 2021 to follow in the footsteps of 2020 and have that more sustained curve throughout December, with the highest returns day occurring between Christmas and New Year. So if we have a look at the holidays this year, Christmas and Boxing Day fall on a Saturday and a Sunday. And while we typically expect that post-Christmas return spike to be on the first working day back in the office for those people that aren't lucky enough to have Christmas and New Year off, that would put the highest returns day on the 27th of December. However, because Christmas and Boxing Day falls on the 25th and 26th, this actually shifts to the 29th because we get a bonus 2 bank holidays this year, which is very nice, but it does mean it moves that returns peak out. So ReBOUND are predicting that the highest returns peak will actually be seen on Wednesday, the 29th of December. So 4 days after Christmas and about a whole month after Black Friday. And then this can carry on into the new year too. So typically we'd see that post-Christmas return spike on the first working day back into the office. So everybody who had Christmas and New Year off, just sitting around eating their mince pies, not worrying about their returns, they would then start looking to do this again once they're back in the office. And shoppers usually take an average of 12 days to return, but with Christmas return policies starting to run out, so as soon as everybody's Christmas trees are down, the returns policies start expiring, this can speed up in January. So while we might typically expect that return spike to be on the 3rd of January, because we get a bonus bank holiday because of New Year's Day falling on a Saturday, we're now predicting that that highest returns peak will be on the 4th of January. So you need to prepare that on the 4th of January, you might have quite a bit of stock coming back that isn't in season anymore. So those really festive Christmas jumpers, sequin Christmas dresses, and I'm sure our panel later on will give you lots and lots of ideas of the most sustainable ways to handle those. But not everybody needs that 12 days that I mentioned. So this bodysuit was dropped off at a Hermes drop-off point in London on Christmas Day. It was registered at 9:01 and by 11:58 it was on its way back. It's a bit of an interesting attire for a first thing on a Christmas morning, I'm sure, but not all of the shoppers take 12 days. Obviously, these are just predictions, but if everybody follows in the footsteps of this eager beaver, who knows that they might blow our predictions out of the water and maybe Christmas Day will be our return spike. But what's the international picture? So we focused very much on UK. Let's have a look at what's going on further afield. There's lots of global operational challenges that are coming into play. So while COVID seems to have somewhat disappeared here in the UK, there's still lots of lockdowns going on globally, particularly in Australia and New Zealand. And country lockdowns can cause all kinds of challenges and delays in returns. There's reduced freight in the UK. The most recent story of that was all of the fuel tankers and the shortage of drivers. And that story is extending out into Europe and further afield as well. And then limited storage availability. So we're getting reports from retailers that they've got so much stock and there is such a demand for it and such a surcharge on that storage that they're wanting to make sure that they're able to store their stock to sustain them throughout the end of the year, and that it's not all going to get tied up in a warehouse somewhere unable to move, or equally that they're not going to have anywhere to store their stock that they've got at all. So what can you do to handle this? You can issue early refunds. So by taking returns online with a platform such as ReBOUND, you can refund your customer at first scan. So as soon as they've dropped it off in the network and you know it's on its way back, you can go ahead and refund them. And 67% of shoppers expect a refund in 3 days or less of sending their returns back to you. This might seem pretty out of kilter with transit times, but shoppers are often blind to that. They don't necessarily understand the process that goes into getting a return back, particularly if it's coming from further afield. So for example, coming back from Australia back to the UK, they don't necessarily understand the journey that it has to take, which is why their expectations are so out of kilter with what's actually going on. So you can keep your CS contacts low, and this ensures that customers are not impacted by any unexpected network delays. So you can plan as much as you like and get everything as ready as you possibly can. But if there are unexpected delays, carrier strikes, who knows what's going to happen? You know, it's been a few years now, but we've seen volcanoes erupt and interrupt flights. So issuing early refunds mean that your shoppers aren't going to be impacted by those, keeping your CS contacts low. Plus, with offering faster refunds, your shoppers are able to shop with you again more quickly. So if they've bought something in a Black Friday sale, they bought a Christmas present for their mum, it arrives and they decide it's not right. If they've got that early refund, they've then got the money to go back and buy it again from you without having to kind of send it back, wait ages to get their refund, and then chance it arriving before Christmas. Extend your returns policy. This will seem like probably the most obvious one to a lot of you. Most retailers do this as we go into the festive season. But 57% of customers believe that the returns window should be at least 30 days. And a study found that more leniency on time limits is associated with a reduction and not an increase in returns. So you might be dubious thinking, oh, if I make it 60 days, I'm going to have loads more returns coming back to me. But it's actually been found that the reverse is true. And I think there's a really great example here from Get the Label. I saw this banner on their website a couple of days ago. So even in September, they were embracing longer return periods, advertising this banner with thinking about Christmas, buy now, return in 2022. And I also think this example from Very is great as well. So they're already encouraging shoppers to start their Christmas shopping early, because they know that if shoppers are getting their Christmas orders in, they're getting all their presents bought, that if they're doing that now, it gives them more time to get any returns associated with that back, get them back on sale and get them sold again before Christmas. Because as lovely as those Christmas jumpers are that family is modeling, nobody is going to want those in January. And you might be a bit dubious with extending your policy that it's going to take ages for your returns to come back to you, but this isn't necessarily true. So we had a look at a cross-section of Rebound clients and found that with a 30-day returns policy, it just takes customers an average of 12 days to return. And if you double this and offer 60 days, it only extends that average time to return by just a couple of days, going up to 16 days to return. And then what I found most interesting is that with a 6-month policy, it was only taking customers 17 days to return. So it's important to remember that stat of 67% of shoppers wanting their refund in 3 days or less. As much as you want your items back, your customers want their money back more, especially over the festive period where that December and January payday seems a million miles apart. And then contactless returns. So hell hath no fury like a shopper without a refund. And returns and refunds can often equate to 70% of CS tickets coming into the help centre. From Rebound customers, they tend to see a reduction of around 40% of that. And that's through a combination of not needing customers to contact their customer services to register the return and offering those early refunds. A lot of retailers offer contactless returns, but also many retailers will put in their returns policy, contact our customer service team to arrange a return, email this email address, phone this phone number. And they do that because they think it's going to reduce the amount of returns that they get. But it could be inhibiting sales too, because 58% of shoppers think this is a bad experience. They say that needing to contact customer services is a negative experience. They don't want to do it. And even now, if I have to phone up customer services, it's always something that you put off and never look forward to, whether that's to register a return or sort out your insurance. Anytime somebody says you've got to call somebody or email somebody, you just know it's going to be a lengthy process. And those customer service calls can be costly to you as well. A couple of retailers have told us that customer service calls can cost as much as £6. And if they're phoning you to arrange the return and then phoning you 2 or 3 times after that to chase up their refund, it's quickly eating away at that profit that you're getting from your items. And then offering multiple return methods. Again, this can help cut down on those customer service contacts. 60% of shoppers find it convenient where there are 3 or more return options available, and their preferred carrier options are changing. So if you're still offering just a Royal Mail label in a box, that might not be enough to satisfy your customers through peak. And I wanted to share with you the typical carrier split that we've seen before COVID and during lockdown. So we looked at a number of Rebound clients who were offering Royal Mail, which is that more traditional carrier option, and then a newer, more alternative carrier option such as Asda to You. So pre-COVID, Royal Mail was carrying 65% of that volume, which isn't necessarily surprising. It's tried and tested, used and loved. The post office, everybody knew where their local post office was. But what's interesting is as we went into lockdown, this flipped completely, with Asda to You starting to carry 66% of the volume because people realised that they could return as part of their weekly shop. So when we were ordered to only make necessary journeys, that they could drop off their return as part of that and not have to make a separate trip to the post office. But as we go into peak, this could all change again. You saw how crazy everybody got in the UK when it looked like there was going to be a fuel shortage. Imagine how packed Asda will get if everybody thinks there's a shortage of turkeys, and then you've got to try and fight through the crowds to drop your return off. It's just not going to happen. So by giving your customers multiple return options, it's allowing them to pick the return option that they find most convenient based on what's going on at the time. And also with multiple carriers, you're mitigating risk against some of those operational issues I spoke about earlier. So if a carrier goes on strike, no worries, you've got some backups. You're not giving yourself one single point of failure for your returns. And then the final bit of advice is to go paperless. So over 3/4 of shoppers support retailers no longer including pre-printed return labels to reduce paper wastage, and follow in the footsteps of retailers such as ASOS. So they went paperless last year, and by doing so, they removed 64 million pieces of paper, saving 8,450 trees and 320,000 kilograms of paper, which are the official stats, but I personally love the fun stats that they went out with to their shoppers to communicate this, saying that that's the equivalent weight of 50 T-Rexes, 55 elephants, and 3 blue whales. So if ASOS can save 50 T-Rexes, imagine how many T-Rexes worth of paper the industry could save as a whole if everybody signed up to this paperless pledge. And that's not the only benefits of going paperless. So you're able to save money because those pre-printed return labels can be very costly, particularly with online returns, fashion returns in particular, with return rates running around 30%. If you're sending a label out in every single parcel, 70% of those are going to waste. By going paperless, you have to take your returns online. So that means you've got full visibility over your returns. You know what is coming back to you, why, when it's been dropped off. And this allows you to refund early, like I mentioned earlier, but it also means that you can plan your stock better and plan your resources better. So you've got advanced warning that there's a wave of returns coming to you, and you can get enough people in the warehouse to process those as and when they happen. And then, like I just mentioned, that faster refund. So with saving money, it's not just saved money in terms of the printing costs and the cost of the paper, but it's also saved money in terms of those customer service costs as well. So that is a very quick whistle-stop tour of what you can do to prepare your returns policy for peak and beyond. If you'd like to carry on the discussion, my email address is on the screen, and you can also reach out to me on LinkedIn. A reminder of the dates for your diary this peak. So the highest returns peak on Wednesday, the 29th of December, and the second highest returns peak on Tuesday, the 4th of January. They will creep up upon us before you know it, but don't worry, ReBOUND are here. We can still get you live before peak if you are interested. And I'm sure there'll be some great insights later on our sustainability panel, where they can share what you can do with these returns that are coming back to you in January. So I'll hand you back over to Dale, and thanks very much everybody for listening.
Thanks, Laura. It was really interesting, some really interesting insights there. Appreciate that. If you could just close your screen down, and I'll just ask our panelists to join us again, if you don't mind. So see you shortly, Laura. Yeah, so if I could just ask the rest of, here we go. Thank you very much for that. So, right, this is on to the second part of the session. So, like I say, if you've got any questions or comments, please drop them in the chat box or raise your hand. Firstly, I'd like to come to you, Emily. We've got two Emilys here, so if you think, why is he asking out the full name, that's why. So Emily Cotterill, can I just come to you first? Obviously, we've seen some really interesting insights here from Laura. Can you just sort of set out what, as things stand at the moment, what's the main problem with it? I know it's kind of a bit of a basic question to ask. Can you just set the scene for us and tell us what the main problems with the return at the moment are?
Yeah, of course. So the main problem with the fashion industry as a whole is can be considered quite a wasteful industry, right? So they follow this typical linear model. So this idea, they take natural resources, they make products out of them, clothing, and because they're not built to last, they're easily disposed of. So what that means is shoppers are getting this kind of throwaway mindset. And retailers are under a lot of pressure to kind of keep up with these growing trends, because shoppers are buying more to keep up with the newest trends. Like, I know the most recent one is like the Amazon leggings that you can buy that make your bum look amazing, or jelly shoes more recently as well, because retailers are under pressure to kind of keep up with that. their returns then have to go on sale pretty quickly. So what that means is when stock comes back, they might not have the time to salvage it, to put it back onto resale. So instead, the easiest option is to dispose of it. And unfortunately, research suggests that 25% are actually ending up in the bin. So to step away from that, what we need to do is think more circular. So instead of this take, make, waste, how can we build products to last? And what solutions are there to try and make sure that they reach their potential? And we know shoppers are ready for that, with around 95% of shoppers believing that retailers should be using circular solutions, especially recycling channels and charity, for any stock that they can no longer sell.
Thanks, Emily. Are we one of the worst culprits, the fashion industry, or are we somewhere in the middle, or would you rather not say?
Well, managing the fashion returns, obviously I only am an expert in that area, and I can say that absolutely it is considerably very wasteful. So yeah, I definitely would think it's the third biggest, most polluting industry.
Yeah, it doesn't surprise me, unfortunately. Caroline, I'd like to bring you in here. Like, given that 25% of retailers are sending unwanted returns to landfill, can you sort of tell me what can happen within the warehouse to make sure that things are efficiently processed?
Yeah, of course. And I think that as a stat anyway, 25% going to landfills, just shocking. It is just way too high. And if you think about general returns, you know, we've said before, you know, it's around 30% for fashion as a return stat. That is a huge amount of a brand or a retailer's inventory in general anyway. So there really should be better ways of dealing with it. For us, Advanced as a business, we do a lot of refurbishment of returns. It can be anything as basic as repackaging. And to see that anything might be thrown away just because the packaging is damaged is absolute sacrilege, really. But, you know, repackaging, relabeling, pressing, steaming, it could be spot cleaning or basic sewing or ozone. There's so many different processes that can be carried out that mean that percentage of what could be classed as grade B or grade C is actually brought back to saleable. You know, it might not be a grade A, but it could go down a route of a pre-loved or an outlet sort of area. It's certainly not landfill product. That should be a last resort as you know, as anything. But taking it back a step as well and looking into, I suppose what Laura was saying before, bringing technology into this as well, you can actually start to understand the returns patterns. Why is a return a return? Not every return is a reject. Understanding why the consumer is sending it back. You know, is it bracketing? Is it multiple choice? I do that all the time because you don't really know what your size is. You might want multiple choices because you're going out at the weekend, all those kind of things. But equally, have you got a manufacturing issue? Have you got a sizing problem that you can deal with? Because it's all about the consumer journey, right? You've got to make sure that your consumer's happy. They want the refunds quickly, but equally they want their shopping journey to be a good one. And if you can try and prevent that from happening by understanding, if you have a sizing issue, that you can capture that by understanding patterns, or equally, if you can, one thing we do as well is we can put a unique license plate on an individual product. You can follow that product's journey. You can understand, has that product been out to a customer and come back and then gone out again? Is there something wrong with that? You can do those bits of, I suppose, a bit more in-depth investigation within your warehouse as well, and understand if you've got a problem with your inventory, so you're not affecting another customer journey. So, you know, certainly there are so many things that can be done with the actual products themselves, but understanding that reasoning is really, really key, and applying technology as well as the physical processes is really important. As this whole industry grows, it's not going away, it's only going to increase. So you've got to think a little bit smarter.
There's a question that's popped up in chat. I'm not sure, actually. Maybe I don't know if Laura or one of your team could maybe, I'm thinking maybe I'll read it out, but perhaps we could respond to it in chat. But David has said, or Dawid, sorry, hi, when it comes to the returns policies, on what laws should the EU online boutiques rely on for e-commerce businesses? Do they have a margin to implement, or is there a strict EU returns policy that online stores need to align with?
I'm in the process of replying to Dawid now. So yes, obviously there's legal returns policies that people need to follow in terms of how long they need to allow for returns and things like that. So yeah, I've just replied to Dawid now so we can have that discussion, because a lot of it will depend on where exactly they're based and the brand and things like that. So I'm covering that one off.
Brilliant. Thanks, Laura. Appreciate that. So again, to all the other panelists as well, if there's a question that's quite specific, feel free just to answer it in chat as well, while maybe somebody else is chatting. Next question, actually. So I'd like to bring Debbie on this. So Debbie, it'd be good to get a retailer's perspective on this. So can you tell me what Finisterre are doing to sort of maximise sort of circularity in returns? Can you share a few insights on that?
Yeah, absolutely. So Finisterre's always been focused on maximising product lifespan. That's not something new to us. It's really about keeping circulation of product for as long as possible. And we believe that's the key to circularity. And sort of quite simply, the most sustainable product is the one that's already in your wardrobe. So we've always offered a repair service at the brand. But as the brand has grown and we've had sort of greater sort of stock requirement, we've identified a need for end of line and impaired quality stock to be sold, and we've opened 2 physical stores, outlet stores, and we have something called avoiding landfill labelling, which is that faulty stock so that it can have a life extension. But during the pandemic, we've, as is typical of the rest of the market, we've really seen an increase online across our online customer base. We've also seen a real spike in female customers, and this has led to an increase in our customer returns. A small number, gladly, because we do have a very nice customer, a small number of these returns cannot be sold either full price or through outlet. They might be damaged, faded, shrunk, clearly worn, or in need of repair. So we had to sort of put something in place for this sort of stock requirement. At the same time, we're aware that some quite scary industry statistics that I think it's, depending on where you read it, between 60 and 70% of all clothing purchased may never get worn or just be sat sadly after a little wear at the back of people's wardrobe, completely denied of their future adventures. So this summer we kicked off a really exciting partnership with Reskinned, based in London, and we've been working with them on a customer take back program. So we launched beginning of July. We've had over 750 customer trade-ins. Customers can return that product directly to Reskinned, doesn't have to go through Finisterre, so reducing transport and distribution requirement. It can be worn, it can be unworn, it can be completely battle scarred and extremely lived and loved. Whatever state it's in, we offer credit for new products, and we mix in our dead stock as well. So that includes some of those customer returns that I talked about previously. And really key to Reskinned's mission is about making pre-love gear as easy to trade, to buy and sell as new. I think that's absolutely key to circularity being at scale. So we share, Finisterre and Reskinned very much share that sort of product lifespan extension to achieve circularity. That trade-in product that comes into Reskinned is repaired if need be, it's ozone cleaned, it's photographed for resale. This gives an opportunity for new customers, actually, who maybe can't afford a full price Finisterre item to buy into the brand. It opens the door to shared ownership. So if they only want a jacket for one crazy adventure, they might not need it again. It means they don't have to sort of stockpile their clothes. And ultimately, if a product is not resaleable or sort of, re-resaleable, we're also working with Reskinned on a fibre to fibre recycling initiative, which is actually across polyester, cotton and wool. So this is really maximising that circular journey for all product, and there's no need for anything to go to landfill. That's the ultimate mission.
And what was that statistics again? You were just saying about how many stuff doesn't get worn. Can you remind me what that was again?
Yeah, I mean, I'm not a big fan of statistics because you can find a myriad of different ones, but the latest one I'd heard was 60% of all clothing purchased may never be worn more than once.
Right. Well, I'm with you on statistics. Isn't that saying that 90% of all statistics are made up on the spot or something like that? I did want to ask though, and this could be for everybody actually. Does anybody know what the psychology of that is? Why do people buy and just leave? You know, I mean, I can only assess this on my own buying patterns. Does any of the other panelists have any ideas on why that is? The main reasons for that? Is it sizing? Is it something else? Is it just buying patterns?
I think it can be a wide range of things, you know, everything from an impulse purchase to what you liked at the time, or to what it specifically went with, what you were wearing, what trend you're in at that time. You know, you've got the ability to sort of purchase it there and then, and it looks good at that time. I don't think people always think about it in the longer term, you know, sort of from a fashion perspective. And a lot of the fashion is what is in here and now. And obviously we have the different seasons, autumn, winter, spring, summer. You could wear it within that season, wear it once, that's done, find something nicer. And I think the other thing is as well is there is so much phenomenal amount of choice that is out there across different designs and everything. I mean, even if I look at my own kind of wardrobe, I mean, I've got everything from vintage 80s Adidas to you know, some dress shirts. It's massive, absolutely massive. I think the other thing as well, kind of touching on certainly from the COVID perspective, everyone is more relaxed in the dress now. I don't think there's always that need for people to have the shirt and tie and have this sort of day-to-day work outfit. I think from people who I know, certainly going into work is a lot more relaxed. You know, a lot of people are just going in jeans and jumpers. So there's a lot of that kind of change as well that's just sort of happening. But yeah, just by the pure nature of fashion, it's so quick to change that it can just get left.
It was sorry, go on.
Also, I wonder also how much social media plays a part in that. You know, how many times do you get something pop up on social media and you click it and you purchase it, and then you've not really looked at the returns policies. So as it, you know, said before, I know what I'm like. If I have to contact customer service and then go through a whole, you know, painful returns process, it may not go back. It's not a great excuse. So I tend to check out returns policies and look at the ones that I really will work with, you know, before I purchase something. But social media it's you just click it, it's too easy. I wonder whether that might be quite a big factor.
Yeah, when we ran pop-ups, we used to see people, there was a slight gender disparity as well. We'd see people just buying a load of stuff. You know, when you're actually in a physical retail environment, you think, yes, you know, there's a big sale here. But actually when it came through cash for the till, it was like, you know, out of all that stuff that was taken to the change room, only that, you know, is what the customer bought. And we saw a lot of that. I'm wondering whether that might have translated to the online environment. Simon, I did have a question for you actually though, about the viability and profitability of actually, you know, being able to sell returns on. Funny enough, at the Fashion Network, I was talking to you in the pre-meeting about what we were involved with the whole sample business. We used to sell samples on for various different clients. We were just about getting into the returns thing. Is that a viable business, selling on returns as returns?
Yeah, I think it is. I think looking at selling on returns, etc. I mean, obviously we work with JD Sports, so we're a sustainable partner with JD, and we have been for a while, and we deal with returns day in, day out. I think the key for me is that it is the responsibility is the most important part of it. You know, when we sort of work with JD, we're looking at these products and thinking, right, okay, what is wrong with this product? As Debbie was sort of saying before, and Emily touched upon, a lot of these products, if there's sort of minor damage, we should be looking at this product and we should be extending life, and we should be letting people have the opportunity to buy it. You have got obviously different types of consumers out there as well, you know, massively. You've got those ones who are very much, they want to be part of a brand and they want to be achieving sort of a brand status, you know, and even though they're looking at it from a sustainable perspective and the kind of clothes, so it might have a little bit of a nick in it or might have a repair in it, but it's a North Face, or but it's a Nike, or but it's an Adi. I think that's really, really important. I think obviously, as we've discussed, sort of going around the previous questions, the landfill perspective is obviously complete and utter horror film. You don't want to be going there at all, because you can just extend it as long as possible. So for us, it's making sure that there's a responsible journey, and you're doing something correct with the product. I think the profitability side of it shouldn't be the key. I think it should more be a case of, right, okay, when you are within this sort of area, what else are you going to do? I mean, we work with, I was talking to Emily actually the other day. So we work with community groups in Manchester, and we work with those in clothing poverty. And we do donate every single week to products that are of a grade that we cannot specifically sell on, and we make sure that we do that on a very, very regular basis. And the other thing as well that you sort of kind of touching on us a little bit is that when we buy the stock and we work with retailers, we buy all of it. So we make sure that as a business, we're responsibly purchasing the stock, and then when we come to do it, it's our decision. And I think we should be responsible to say, okay, we've made a bit of profit, fantastic, but we should be giving something back into the community as well from that perspective. So I think from businesses, like us, it's definitely not all about the profit. It's about what we can kind of give back and what good that we do with that grade of stock.
So you're saying there's different values channels here. So there is the secondary market. There's also corporate social responsibility, if you like.
Yeah.
And there's. Sorry, go on.
Yeah, absolutely. The CSR perspective. I mean, everyone's looking at it from an ESG perspective of what we should be doing that is responsible. From our business, we're just trying to take a lead and go. We could probably sell absolutely every single item and make more profit on it. When we set about doing it, we've had certain instances where we thought, what, we can just put something back into the community, whatever it would be. Sort of briefly touching again, sort of going back to conversations with Emily. I think Emily C. Sorry, she knows this. Last year we did Boots on Feet, where we were working with different suppliers, and we had a specific grade of footwear that we'd already purchased. So we donated 1,200 pairs of boots to all of the charities around Yorkshire. And then in Manchester, we donated 650 jackets and got a jacket on every homeless person in Manchester within 24 hours, just because there was that need for it. And we thought, right, well, we can do it. It was a bit tricky, but we could do it. And we worked with the community groups in Manchester. So I think you're right. I think there's got to be different channels. And I think when people come to make that decision from a retail perspective, and they'll be absolutely nailed it on the head of so many different channels about what Finisterre do, is that we should be responsible again doing that. We've all got to look at it, and I think it's something I probably overuse, but we're all on a journey, and we're all trying to get to a point where we have made a difference within the industry. That's I would have thought that's probably everyone's thought on the panel today, is what they do with the product at that point is making some form of impact, and it's how the combined impact works.
And we can't get away from the sustainability thing. If the pandemic's shown one thing, as everyone's now, the spotlight's even more on sustainability than it ever was before, actually. I'd like to bring Emily Mack in on this stage. Can you just tell us a little bit about what Poly are doing then with regards to sustainability, if you don't mind?
Absolutely, yes. So we've got a number of projects in the pipeline, and we've been working on a lot of initiatives to improve our sustainability. So currently 80% of our returns are resaleable, and with the remaining 20%, they are either sent off to be spot washed, fixed, or where possible, or they are redistributed by Parker Lane, who we've been working with for the past 2 years. So Parker Lane, basically their aim is to extend product life cycle for as long as possible and recycle end-of-life garments by redistributing them to areas where we don't have footfall. We also hold charitable thrift shops as well for employees, and we are investing in our own spot wash machine in-house to improve the cleaning process as well. And we do the same with end of season stock as well. We send that to Park Lane and TK Maxx for resale as well. So these processes that we have in place mean that all garment wastes are diverted for our Zero to Landfill initiative. And on the topic of returns as well, we've also removed approximately 7.5 tonnes of paper annually by going paperless with our invoices and returns forms, which is great. And we're also working on another project at the moment on recyclability of our packaging, as we're looking to exceed the 30% requirement in April by achieving at least 65% recyclable content. And another amazing thing that we've just launched is our online clothing bank with ReBOUND, which is powered by the Salvation Army. So that's across all three of our brands, so Opoly, and then our sister brands Bowen Tea and Nina Swim. So the portal basically gives customers the option to donate their unwanted items for charity for free. And in return, we can offer the customer a discount off their next order once the donations have then been dispatched. So we went live with this on Monday. Across all three brands, we're working on a marketing campaign this week as well. We have a story going live on our Opoly Instagram page where we have 4 million followers, so hopefully the uptake will be better again. I think from Monday we've had roughly 45 donations so far in the portal, but hopefully, like I say, once our email marketing has gone through, we'll get more of an uptake on that, which will be great to see. Yeah, and we're also sending marketing messaging within our order dispatch emails as well to promote the service.
How's the response been so far, Emily?
Yeah, so we've had 45 donations so far, but as I say, we just launched it on Monday, and we haven't yet had we haven't completed our marketing messaging on this just yet, but we have started incorporating this into emails, but definitely more to come this week and today, so that's exciting.
There was something else I wanted to ask. I just sort of wanted to go back to that processing thing, and maybe this is one for either Caroline or Emily Cotterill, I don't know, but is returns a bigger problem at the value end of the market than is sort of luxury end of the market? I don't know, Caroline, is that one for you or Emily?
I mean, returns or I suppose the salvage of, there's always a cost associated with refurbishment and the value of the garment. If the value of the garment is lower, then obviously you've got to understand what the relationship between a cost and the cost of your garment, I suppose, or your retail value. But certainly from our experience, the vast majority of returns may just need repackaging or relabeling, which is relatively cheaply. Obviously, when you start looking at other things like sewing work and things like that, it may then be a little bit, less cost effective, I suppose. But the vast majority, in terms of percentage, you're looking like a really high 90%, where there's little or very, very, very little really sort of in-depth rework that would need to be done. Repackaging, pressing, those kind of things, it's really quite cheap. And when you think about the cost to the sort of the environment, if you're talking about landfill or anything like that, it's no brainer.
Emily, did you want to come on that as well?
Yeah, of course. So we see in the fashion industry, both from a luxury and a fast fashion perspective, the average return rate is around about 30%. And what we see is shoppers buying more, wearing them, and then returning them. That's called wardrobing. So that is one of the reasons why, especially in the fast fashion industry, they're always trying to keep up with what shoppers want, because they're getting this swarm of returns being thrown at them.
And I've heard, I don't know if they're rumours, I think it's true, but some companies actually have spotters. Is that right? They go out and, the whole wardrobing thing, they go out and spot if so-and-so's returned something, they go on to Facebook or Instagram. Is that true?
I've heard rumours. I've been in a lot of retailers' warehouses, and I've actually done some of the processing, some of the sniff checks and stuff. No, it is true in some retailers where they do kind of think about penalising shoppers who are repeatedly returning and abusing the system.
And what is just as from a layman's point of view, from my point of view, so obviously there's the sniff test, there's there's a visual check. What other things do you check? That things can be, what are the key things that gets checked when things come back into the warehouse? Simon, did you want
stuff in the pockets? I mean, from what Emily's saying with the wardrobe side of it, it does happen on eBay. We've had it before where someone's worn the jacket, had it for sort of 3 or 4 weeks, and then returned it with dog biscuits in and everything, and said, don't fancy it now, you can have it back. Excellent. That's great. So we've had some trainers back where they were sort of, I think it was about 30 days, and they were absolutely ripped to pieces. But their insistence was that it was brand new when they sent it back to us. So we've had many different things, as I'm sure most people probably have.
Okay, Emily Cotterill, I want to come back to you actually, because obviously we're looking at obviously coming at this from a focus of sustainability. So just tell us as returns experts then, so how can your solution and what you guys do help to make the returns process more sustainable?
Yeah, sure. So there's 3 ways, I think. So the first thing is we've adapted our portal to support charitable donations, and everything that Emily just said, but we're doing with Opoly at the moment. So when you go into a store like Marks and Spencer's, for example, the bins in store where you can drop your clothing off and you get like your swapping points in for doing that. We've took that process online. So we've already adapted our solution to support that. So that's point 1. The second point as well is, you don't have to wait for your stock to come back as a retailer. What if you could divert unwanted returns upstream? So if somebody is returning something from the USA, for example, what if you could hold it in the USA and give it to charity? So it doesn't have to get on a flight. And that's exactly what the ReBOUND technology can do. And in doing that, then you're improving circularity as one, you're reducing processing time in your warehouse and any unnecessary kind of warehouse floor space isn't being lost. That's 2. But then the third thing is you're reducing your carbon emissions, because we know that carbon emissions is associated directly with kind of getting on flights. They're the most carbon intensive of ways of routing. So I'm just thinking about carbon emissions for a second as well. ReBOUND have been plotting our carbon emissions for the last 3 years now. We only route as direct as we can be, and because all returns are tracked, we have complete control of where those parcels are going all over the world. So we can accurately document and report a retailer's carbon footprint. And we do that for our retailers. We can do those bespoke carbon emissions. But I'd actually would just like to bring in Debbie on this. I'm just doing your job for you, Dale, because I had a chat with Debbie about this last week, and the stuff that Finisterre are doing are just absolutely brilliant.
Yeah, I'd love to. So yeah, last year, in amongst all the mayhem that the year brought, we decided to carry out a full business carbon footprint. We worked with a fellow B Corp called Green Elements. Good plug for them because they're amazing. And we basically this involved looking at the carbon emissions across our entire business, and this is no small undertaking. So that means scopes 1, 2 and 3 emissions. I didn't know what that meant a year ago. I absolutely do now. I haven't got time to go into detail on what it is, but it basically covers all carbon emissions from farm to factory to warehouse to customer. It's everything. And yeah, it's not easy to plot. So the reason we did it was because we knew that the majority of our environmental impacts were felt through the supply chain. And actually, no surprises, about 80% of our carbon emissions were from materials and manufacturing. So once we had this information, it sort of gave us greater understanding of where we could make the biggest impacts to reduce our footprint. What was really interesting to me was that from the total 2020 annual carbon footprint, when we just looked at transport and distribution, it made up about 10% of all emissions, which, yeah, it's not actually maybe as much as I may have thought, but 10% of all emissions across full business in operations were from transport and distribution. So that's associated with textiles, bulk shipping, to online and retail fulfillment and returns. But I thought, shockingly, despite this global view, 4% of all of our transport and distribution emissions came from customer returns. I thought that was pretty huge, actually, given how large that is. So that's something, now we've got that information, we're really looking to reduce that impact. And that's through collaborating with the customer. They probably don't know that, right? So we've got to talk to them, bring them into the mix. It's utilising our stores, our retail stores more to help people to return in store. It's also investing in our website, so the tech that some of the rest of the team at the panel have already talked about. And it's then what we can't reduce, it's then investing in conservation and community projects, again, sort of along the lines of Simon was talking about, to invest in biodiversity and in helping to increase people's relationship with nature. So, you know, it's sort of multifaceted, but actually for us, I think the interesting thing was once you actually have that information, you know where to sort of utilize and deploy your next steps and action.
Fascinating. We're sort of on the home stretch now, so if there's any other questions out there in the audience, please, now's your chance. We've got time to take one or two questions, but just want to remind everybody that there is a post-event networking session immediately after this. The link has been shared in the chat box. It would be great if you guys in the audience would like to join us. That'd be fantastic. There's the link. But I'd just like to sort of like get sort of like your final sort of like thoughts on, because obviously we're about to go into peak, and I would just like to get pretty much every one of you to give me your sort of insights into what you would like to see retailers do to ensure returns are a breeze and not an uphill battle for this particular peak. Now, who would like to pick that up first? Caroline, can I come to you first?
Yeah, my lights are back on now. So.
Oh yeah, I was going to say you've got light problems. If people wondering why you keep bobbing out,
honestly, yeah. It's actually one of those really fancy lights that you've got to jump around in, but I didn't realise that. So.
Oh right, okay.
Yeah, I think, you know, it's where I said before. You know, not every return is a reject, and I think we've just got to have a different mindset of that. You know, I think it's more important to actually look at the reasons why you're getting returns and handle that. The misnomer that it takes too long to get it back on sale also needs to be addressed. You know, we handle millions of returns a year ourselves, and it's back on sale literally, or back with the retailer within 24, 48 hours. It can be a really quick process if you handle it really well. It's not, and it should never be landfill or a great big pile of returns in the corner of a warehouse. It should be handled quickly through a warehouse and back out again, back on sale. It's too big and too an important part of inventory as well, to just be left and not really thought about.
Emily Mcmorran, can I come to you next on that?
Yes, absolutely. Yeah, I think it's the main thing is to be proactive as well rather than reactive. The last thing you want is to receive hundreds and hundreds of returns and, like you say, have them sat in a warehouse. So to have a proper plan in place, like, as I say, if you can find and work with a redistributor, such as Parker Lane, as we are, that's been a massive help and part of our returns process. And I think having an efficient way as well to, like say, fix, spot wash, do whatever you can to garments that can't just be put directly back online straight away, having something in-house, something efficient, to sort of speed that process up, again, so they're not just sat there and don't go to landfill. Then yeah, I think having something in place like that and being proactive about it can help, even with the peak of Black Friday and holiday sales, and it's certainly helped Opoly in combating that.
Can I come to you next, Simon, if that's okay?
Yes, thanks, Dale. I think for me, it's probably to deal with the problem, and to when you have got the trigger points where you are looking at either the stock that, so it's probably just to clarify, when we deal with returns, we deal with products that have been damaged, they do need repairs, etc. So from that perspective, it's probably a case of there are options after. I mean, I know a lot of the guys, they repack it and then put it back in for sale. We sort of deal with product that isn't. So it's a case of just seeing that there is this kind of option to still keep the length of life of the product going as long as possible. And I think we shouldn't take that. It should always be at our forefront of our mind, really, even though there is an issue with it. There has to be some form of solution to it. As we've said throughout the webinar, that the landfill is the worst case, but it's a case of what we can do. And again, what Caroline was saying earlier of how things are spot washed, how things are brought back to life. We've got to think about that. That is, the more sustainable, the better. And brands, retailers should always keep that right at the forefront.
Thanks, Simon. Emily Cotterill, I'll come to you next, only because you're on the next row on my screen. What would you like to see retailers do for this breach?
Yeah, I think, achieving sustainable returns can be really difficult, especially if you don't have the right technology behind you. So using a service that kind of is a tracked return service or a portal like the ReBOUND system gives you visibility of all the returns which are coming back and why, and also gives retailers the ability to make those smarter business decisions about whether it stays in country, gets donated to charity. So once you've got your returns online, everything else kind of snowballs from there. So that would be my key tip, I'd say.
And digitized, so you know what's going out, what's coming back, basically.
Exactly, you'll know exactly what's coming back and why. Which will be able to spot any kind of issues with any of the products, the sizing, that kind of thing.
Fantastic. And Debbie, you can have the last word on this. So what would you like to see retailers do to improve things?
Yeah, I mean, I think for me, it's just about having a joined up approach. So I think that's for something to be truly circular. You can't just deal with it in a siloed approach. Say in returns, you have to start right back at the design and think all the way through to the customer phase. So it's having a joined up approach. And a simple kind of thing for peak, I mentioned it before, but really utilising all of your assets. So if you've got retail stores, just, again, combining them with your e-com. Don't think in sort of e-commerce and retail terms, thinking sort of unilaterally. That's the only way that we're going to get to truly circular solutions, is working together.
So more joined up thinking within the companies. Yeah.
And across companies as well, across company, collaborating with, whether it's ReBOUND or it's Opoly working with Finisterre. Yeah, it's collaboration.
Well, maybe you might see another one of these sessions in a few months' time around that. Guys, I'd love to carry on chatting, but we're obviously at our time now, so it's been absolutely fantastic. There is a link in the chat box. So if anybody in the audience would like to come and meet the panelists or meet anyone from the Fashion Network, ReBOUND Returns or e-commerce team, then please click on that link. What we would ask, if you do join that meeting, is it'd be great if you could pop your camera on, because obviously we're going to be meeting people. What we'll do is when you join the meeting, we'll do 3 breakout sessions, so you'll get to meet somebody one-to-one. So that's happening immediately after this. I just want to thank ReBOUND Returns again for supporting and sponsoring today's session. Without that, we wouldn't have been able to put this together for you guys out there listening for free. If anybody would like to get in contact with them, I shall pop up the contact details immediately after this. So I think, under normal circumstances, I'd say please have a round of applause, but that's not going to work today. And under normal circumstances, I'd also say meet you in the bar and I'll buy you all a glass of vino, but that's also not going to happen. But I will meet you all in the room afterwards. So what I just ask all the speakers to do is, if you could just switch off your cams and your thing, and I'll meet you in the room back in about 2 minutes. Thank you very much, guys. See you all later.